If you wanted to learn the secrets of a certain secret society, you had to do dreadful things which I cannot repeat here. And at one time, in Barotse land, in the west of what is today Zambia, my teacher said, look, how far are you willing to go in order to become one of us? I said, I am willing to go anywhere. He looked at me and he said, listen, educated man, we are tired of people like you. White men come amongst us to milk our minds and then to kill us. We want to be sure that we can trust you. And wait, sir. I said, great one, I am willing to do anything. He said, are you? I said, yes. And then they went into a graveyard, and from there they removed the hand of a corpse, dead 2 days, and they brought it and they challenged me to cook it and eat it. I did so.
People have to realize that we're in a spiritual battle, as St. Paul says in Ephesians 6:13, that you fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and wickedness in high places. So that's what people have to realize. Now, the main enemy is Freemasonry. Freemasonry claims that it tries to make good men better men, and it accepts only men of high moral character, and it's a charitable, benevolent, educational, religious society. They seek to improve the community. But what they fail to tell the people is that Masonry has another purpose that is completely unknown to much of the public and many of the Masons. Manly P. Hall, a 33rd degree Mason, said, quote, Freemasonry is a fraternity within a fraternity, an outer organization concealing an inner brotherhood of the elect. So you have the invisible societies, a secret fraternity. So there are those who know a secret and those who don't know the secret. In more than one way, deception is practiced on the initiates of the blue degrees. The blue degrees, as we're going to mention, are the first 3 degrees of Masonry. He's told that nothing he's about to do will conflict with his religious or personal beliefs, but he's led phase by phase through a series of blood oaths, never to reveal the secrets of Freemasonry. These are blood oaths for a secret organization that, as we're going to see, is diabolical. So the Mason begins his Masonic career with the first 3 degrees, the 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge: entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. If he wishes, he can stop Masonry after he's finished those first 3 degrees and call himself a master mason of the Blue Lodge. If he wishes, he can continue up the York Rite ladder or the Scottish Rite ladder. In the York Rite, there are another 10 degrees in the York Rite, and if he completes those extra 10, he can become and call himself a Knights Templar Mason. And if he goes up the Scottish Rite ladder, there are another 30 degrees in the Scottish Rite. And basically, once he completes the blue degrees, he can buy the 4th to 32nd degree, the Scottish Rite, if he has enough money. It's basically that. So many of the individual degrees, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, the whole initiations, all the things that are said in each of those degrees, some of the Masons that are even 32nd degree Masons haven't gone fully. They're called exemplified degrees. They haven't gone fully through all those degrees because obviously it takes a lot of time. But many of the Masons do know what I'm going to say when I reveal some of the initiations of each of the degrees. The book, Duncan's Ritual of Freemasonry, gives a word-for-word transcript of the first 3 degrees of the Masonic Lodge, the Blue Lodge. In the first degree, the initiate is asked the following question: what do you desire? In the first degree, he answers light. In the second degree, he answers more light. In the 3rd degree, he answers further light. Now, Albert Pike, who's probably the most famous Freemason of all time, he was a Mason who simultaneously occupied 3 different positions. He was the head of Washington, D.C. Masonry, he was the head of American Masonry, and he was the head of World Masonry. Albert Pike wrote the book Morals and Dogma. It was published in 1871 and is used in all Scottish Rite initiations to explain the craft's philosophy. It's been called the most important book of Freemasonry. It's been called the Bible of Freemasonry, and it's given to every fourth degree Mason, this book. And it's also recommended in every issue of the Scottish Rite Journal. Each month it recommends to get and read Morals and Dogma. Albert Pike says in Morals and Dogma, quote, "The Mason is familiar with the doctrine that the Supreme Being is a center of light." And what is this light that the Masons are talking about? The answer can be found on page 321 of Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. Quote, "Lucifer, the light bearer, Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it he who bears the light? Doubt it not," end quote. And on page 324 he repeats the thought. He says, quote, "A devil, the fallen Lucifer, or light bearer." He identifies Lucifer as being the devil. And of course, St. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 11:14, the devil will transform himself as an angel of light. So the New Agers believe the same thing as the Masons. David Spangler, a leading New Ager, wrote, quote, "The light comes from Lucifer. He is the light bearer," end quote. And many people say, many Masons even say, Freemasonry is not a religion. It's not a religion. It is a religion. Albert Pike said on page 213 of Morals and Dogma, quote, "Every Masonic lodge is a temple of religion, and its teachings are instruction in religion," end quote. Some more information from Albert Pike. On July the 14th, 1889, Albert Pike issued formal written instructions to the 23 Supreme Councils of the world. He said, quote, "To you, Sovereign Grand Inspectors General, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degree. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. Yes, Lucifer is God, and the true and pure religion is the belief in Lucifer," end quote. On page 276 of the book called Ku Klux Klan by J.C. Lester and Bill Wilson, it says that, quote, "General Albert Pike organized the Ku Klux Klan after the Civil War." So he also started the Ku Klux Klan. To also get a degree that the Masons, their leading Masons, believed the light bearer was Lucifer, Manly P. Hall, another leading Freemason, wrote the book The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. His book is recommended in a reading list of what you should buy your Masonic relatives. And on page 48 of his book, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry, he says this, quote, "When the Mason learns the key is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands," end quote. So the Masonic writers are telling the public they conceal a worship of Lucifer from the rest of the Masonic Lodge. It's according to the Masons that Lucifer is the light bearer, and the Mason who figures it out has discovered the secret. So basically that's what we have. They are not only worshipers of Lucifer, but they also are Antichrist to such an extent that if a worshipful master of the Masonic Lodge allows prayer to be made in Jesus' name, his lodge can be closed and his charter revoked by the Grand Lodge of his state. This information was taken from a Jeremiah film special where they interviewed former Masons and former people that are involved in witchcraft. And here's some interesting parallels in what these men said separately. They were interviewed in different states and different countries. Some were from Canada, some from the United States. Look at the parallels here. In Blue Lodge Masonry, to become a Mason, you have to be recommended by another Mason. In witchcraft, you have to be screened and recommended by someone currently in witchcraft. In Masonry, you are blindfolded and bound by a rope. In witchcraft, you are blindfolded, bound by a rope, and led to the edge of the magic circle. In Masonry, a sharp object is put to your left breast, and you take a blood oath what to expect if you reveal any of the secrets of the lodge. In witchcraft, a sword is put to your left breast, and you take a blood oath not to reveal the secrets of witchcraft. In Masonry, during the ritual, the blindfold is taken off the candidate, and they tell you that you are in darkness and you're coming into light. In witchcraft, during the ritual, the candidate is challenged by someone at the edge of the magic circle who says, "Who goes there?" And the answer is, "One from the world of darkness." In Masonry, the Masons end their prayers with, "So mote it be." In witchcraft, they end their prayers with, "So mote it be." Now we're going to look at we're going to look at the York Rite of Freemasonry. In the York Rite, they claim only Christians can join the York Rite. In particular, what we're going to look at is the Holy Royal Arch degree of the York Rite. According to Jim Flanagan and other former Royal Arch Masons, in the opening and closing of every chapter of a meeting, the high priest asks another Royal Arch Mason, he's called the companion captain of the host, the question, quote, "Are you a Royal Arch Mason?" And the other Mason responds, "I am that I am." This refers, of course, to the time when Moses was approached by God, and God identified himself as "I am." And God said that this is my name forever. And of course, our Lord said in John 8:58, he says, "I am," referring to, they asked him who he was. He said, "Before Abraham was, I am." In Masonry, they say that the name of God has been lost. In a later degree, in the Royal Arch degree, the 7th degree, the name that was lost is now found. The men form an arch with their arms and say that God's name is Jabulam, which is the joining of Jehovah, God's name, with the pagan gods Baal and Osiris. And according to the Royal Arch Masons, they call this the Grand Omnific Word. Now we're going to look at the Scottish Rite. In particular, now we're going to start with the 17th degree. And this information is taken from Scottish Rite, Masonry Illustrated, Volume 1, pages 453, 456, 457, E-Cook Publishing, 1974, just to prove that this is just not something we're making up. Here's what the initiation is. Having completed the initiation, after revealing the password Jebulum and the sacred word Abaddon, the senior warden conducts a candidate to an elevated canopy to the right of all the others present. This is supposed to represent the end of the world, so forth. But what's most fascinating about this degree, the 17th degree, is the sacred word of the ritual, Abaddon. If you look in your Bible in Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, you'll find out who Abaddon is. He's the angel of the bottomless pit. He's a demon. So the sacred word of the ritual, the 17th degree of Freemasonry, is the name of a demon. So he's invoking a demon. The Masonic 18th degree is a mockery of the sacrament of the Eucharist. And the 19th degree is called the degree of Grand Pontiff. Another Mason during this ritual anoints the candidate with his head with oil and says, quote, "Be thou a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek," end quote. In the 20th degree, they say, quote, "No man has the right to dictate to another in matters of faith or belief. No one can say that he has possession of the truth." In the 28th degree, the symbol, this is for the degree Knight of the Serpent, it has a snake biting its tail. And what looks to be a friendly person, but you look in, as it looks in the reflection here, as you can see in the water, if you turn it around, it's a demon. And that's important because Albert Pike says, quote, "That which is above is as that which is below," end quote. In the 30th degree, it's called the Knight's Kadosh, the ritual reads like this. The Grand Master rises and says, "Imitate me." He then stabs a skull crowned with a tiara representing Pope Clement V and says, quote, "Down with imposture, down with crime." Later he stabs a skull surmounted with a regal crown, supposed to represent King Philip of France, saying, quote, "Down with tyranny, down with crime." The master and the candidate then kneel before a skull adorned with a laurel wreath. It's supposed to represent Jacques de Molay. And they say, quote, "Everlasting glory to the immemorial martyr of virtue." In the 30th degree, the initiate repeats both of these, demonstrating his hatred for the Catholic Church and any form of monarchy.
So they're against the church and they're against the state.
Right, exactly.
And wanting to bring down all forms of, that's why the monarchies were destroyed in Europe.
Yes, absolutely. This is a certificate from a man who completed the 32nd degree of Freemasonry. Notice the words at the top, "Order ab chaos," which means order out of chaos. On the 33rd degree Masonic jewel, the Freemason has the same things written here at the top, "Order ab chaos." The House of the Temple in Washington, D.C., which is where Freemasons receive their 33rd degree. And you can't seek, if you're a 32nd degree Mason or any type of Mason, you cannot seek to be a 33rd degree Mason. You have to be chosen to be a 33rd degree Mason. But the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C. is where they receive the initiation of the 33rd degree. As you can see right here, the 33rd degree House of the Temple in Washington, D.C. has serpents all over the inside. As you can see above, has concealed swastikas above it. The 33rd degree House of the Temple is exactly also 13 blocks north from the White House. The whole city of Washington, D.C. is laid out Masonically. You can see right here, including the pentagram, which is a 5-pointed satanic star, comes right down on top of the White House. Now, an expose of the 33rd degree initiation was done by a former Mason, 33rd degree Mason, Paul Rosen. It can also be found in Edith Starr Miller's book, Occult Theocracy, on pages 363 and 364. It says on those pages that part of the initiation, they claim that 3 murders of mankind are law, property, and religion. It says this, quote, "Neither law, property, nor religion can be imposed on man as they annihilate him by depriving him of his most precious right. They are assassins on whom we have sworn to wreak vengeance. They are enemies against whom we have declared war to the death. Of these 3 enemies, it is on religion that we must concentrate our most deadly attacks. Once religion is dead, law and property will fall to our mercy, and we shall be able to regenerate society by founding on the corpses of the assassins of man, Masonic religion, Masonic law, and Masonic property," end quote. According to the Congressional Record of September 9, 1987, it says that no less than 60 members of the House of Representatives are Masons, and about 75 congressmen are Masons. The following senators are 33rd degree Masons: Alan Simpson, Wyoming; Robert Byrd, West Virginia; Strom Thurmond, South Carolina; Lloyd Benson, Texas; Jesse Helms, North Carolina, who's claimed to be
Jesse Helms?
That's right, 33rd degree Freemason. And there are many other senators that are regular Masons, like Grassley from Iowa and Spector from Pennsylvania. And 1996 Republican running mates Bob Dole and Jack Kemp are both 33rd degree Freemasons. Another so-called conservative, who many people thought was conservative, is Barry Goldwater. He's also a 33rd degree Freemason, and this is proven by this magazine called Royal Arch Masonry, Volume 11, Number 8, states right here that Goldwater is a 33rd degree Mason. And there are a number of other congressmen that are Masons, but we don't have time to get into that. Some other notable Freemasons who belong to the black-only Prince Hall Lodge include Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, who voted pro-abortion on the Roe v. Wade decision; Atlanta Mayor Andrew Young; Detroit Mayor Coleman Young; Los Angeles Mayor Tom Bradley; and Dr. Benjamin Hooks, the NAACP. Now, what's very important is the pentagram is an important symbol to Freemasonry. In fact, the Eastern Star, the women's group, their symbol is a pentagram. But many people don't know the difference between a star and a pentagram. But the Masons themselves know the difference, and they tell us what the difference is. In the book called The History of Freemasonry, it was written in 1891. This book was written by a series of 32nd and 33rd degree Freemasons. On page 49 of the book it says this, quote, "This star represents good when represented with 1 point upward." And the page reads on, let me remind you, these are high-ranking Masons, quote, "But when turned with 1 point down, it represents evil. All that is opposed to the good, pure, and virtuous," end quote. So the star with 1 point down is evil, and the Masons have it on the cover of this Bible. The Eastern Star is a pentagram, as I mentioned, as its chief emblem, and it's always been, the pentagram is one of the biggest symbols in Satanism, and probably the biggest. And as you can see right here, this is a clothing line right here. It's called the New World Order clothing line. By the way, they also have, as you can see here, first of all, as a pentagram on the guy's side there. What's interesting is their advertisement, they talk about order coming out of chaos for the New World Order clothing line. The colors, again, are very interesting, black, red, and white, because they're the colors of the Nazi Party. And the Masons declare in their writings that the colors of the Royal Master Mason degree are black, red, and white. The Masons have created many groups, such as the Eastern Star, we've mentioned, has the pentagram for the symbol, the Demolay, which is for the young men of Masonic members, the boys. The Job's Daughters, or Rainbow Girls, for the young girls of the Masons, and Prince Hall Lodges for the blacks. And the Shriners are a special group of Masons made up of 32nd and 33rd degree Scottish Rite Masons and 13th degree or Knights Templar York Rite Masons. The Shriners claim to be a charitable organization, yet the facts prove that isn't the case. Only 1/3 of the money raised by the Shriners goes to charity. The Shriners also wear red hats called fezzes. Interesting story about the fez, because the fez comes from Morocco, which is in North Africa. You can look it on your map. And in the year 800 AD, 50,000 Catholics were slaughtered there by Muslims. And they said the blood ran so thick that the Muslims dipped their hats in the blood, and their hats turned red. And it's been a 1,200-year sign of Muslims' victory over Christians. And it was first commercially sold from Fez, Morocco. And the Shriners wear fezzes. Now, the Shriners tell us why they wear the fez. This is in a book in 1977 put out by the Sabar Shrine Temple. they say this in the book, quote, "The fez has been handed down through the ages as one of the most significant headdresses. The fez derives its name from the place where it was first manufactured commercially, the holy city of Fez in Morocco," end quote. Also, during the initiation ceremonies of the Shriners, they, quote, "seal their solemn oath in the name of Allah, the God of our fathers." A little later on in the ritual, they, quote, they acknowledge, quote, "Islam as the one true faith." And you can ask some guy who claims to be a Catholic or a Christian that how can they do this, you know, that, saying Allah is the one true faith. They also have on their calendar, the Shriners' calendar, the Order of Quetzalcoatl, which is pretty interesting because Quetzalcoatl is the stone serpent which Our Lady of Guadalupe came in Mexico to crush, and she converted 8 million to the Catholic faith by means of those apparitions. Some of the papal condemnations against Freemasonry, so people know that Freemasonry has always been condemned by the Church. Leo XIII says, quote, "Let no man think that he may, for any reason whatsoever, join the Masonic sect if he values his Catholic name and his eternal salvation," end quote. Under the old code of canon law, anyone who joined the Masons was automatically excommunicated. Leo XIII said, quote, "To join with these men," Freemasons, "or in any way to help them cannot be lawful," end quote. And cooperation between Masons and Catholics could be done only under the strictest of conditions. Leo XIII says, quote, "Those men are like those whom, according to the St. John the Apostle, hospitality and greeting should be denied," end quote. In all, there are more than 200 documents issued by the Vatican that have condemned Freemasonry.
You know, Pope Clement XII in 1730 also began the ipso facto excommunication of anyone becoming, but he also gave an ipso facto excommunication for anyone who associated with the Masons.
Right, exactly. It's that's the severity of what we're talking about. It's a big crime. People have lessened that, and of course we're going to show a little later that they fully infiltrated the Catholic Church too. So now some of the Masonic statements against the Catholic Church, because you have a lot of Masons and others say, well, they're not anti-Catholic, and many Masons don't know this. But this all gets back to the main root of our problem. Most people don't know what we're talking about here, and of course Hosea 4:6 in the Old Testament says, "My people are destroyed from lack of knowledge." So because they don't know is not going to help them too much. They're still going to be held accountable because it's still evil. Some Masonic statements against the Church. The Masons used to call their official magazine the New Age magazine, but when the New Age movement got a lot of bad publicity, they changed the name of their magazine to the Scottish Rite Journal because of all the negative things being said about the New Age movement. It is the official magazine of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and it says in the Scottish Rite Journal, quote, "Catholicism, not communism or socialism, is Masonry's immediate worry." The French Grand Orient gave utterance to the following profession of faith in 1885. It said, quote, "We Masons must aim for the complete destruction of Catholicism." A chief in the Masonic Alta Vendita Lodge proclaimed, quote, "Let us conspire only against Rome," end quote. In the stone inscription of the Masonic Grand Orient and Supreme Council of France, it says this, quote, "The fight taking place between Catholicism and Freemasonry is a fight to the very death, ceaseless and merciless." So, and what most people say is if you want to destroy the Church, and if you're against the Church, and you believe that the Church is the true Church that Jesus Christ established, why not infiltrate it? And they have infiltrated it. This is a copy of the May 8, 1991 edition of the Mount Washington Press, a paper near Cincinnati, Ohio. It talks about how the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, Ohio sends all possible candidates for the priesthood to Joseph Wicker. Joseph Wicker is a worshipful master of Mount Washington Masonic Lodge number 642 in Mount Washington, Ohio. That means that he's the president of the Masonic Lodge in his hometown. Mr. Wicker says that he no longer considers himself a practicing Roman Catholic, but practices what he calls Rosicrucian experiments. The Rosicrucians are a Masonic-like group that says everything should be guided by the use of reason. They've been officially condemned by the Catholic Church, and Mr. Wicker also says he believes in reincarnation. So Archbishop Pilarczyk of the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, Ohio, has a Freemason screen all the candidates for the priesthood. Many people say then, well, obviously the Church looks to be infiltrated, and the communists also tell us that this is the case too, that they were told by Moscow to infiltrate the Catholic Church. Mr. Manny Johnson, a former official in the Communist Party in America, gave the following testimony in 1953 to the House Un-American Activities Committee. He said, quote, "The communists discovered that the destruction of religion could proceed much faster through the infiltration of the Catholic Church by communists operating within the Catholic Church itself," end quote. Mrs. Bella Dodd, who spent most of her life in the Communist Party of America and was Attorney General designate had the party won the White House, after her defection from the Communist Party, she revealed that one of her jobs as a communist was to encourage young radicals into the priesthood. And she said that before she left the party in the United States that she encouraged more than 1,000 young radicals to infiltrate the seminaries and religious orders of the Catholic Church. And she said back then they had risen to the highest places in the church. And so this is why you don't have any call to conversion, you have no exposure to Masons. And what I'm saying should be said by almost every priest in the United States and throughout the world. It's not said because these people are either direct infiltrators or they just don't care anymore. There's a complete apathy as far as the true faith. This is an interesting picture we have here. This is a grade 6 catechism. It's given to 6th graders across the country. And you can see right here the little dots, the dark dots on this. This is the opening page, as you can see. This is Christ with us. And you have these dark dots all over the page. And of course the communists are trying to achieve victory over the church. And you can see the dark dots. What's interesting is you line those dark dots up, and what do you get?
Looks like a hammer and a sickle.
Communist, hammer, and sickle. So what they were saying was that they've now achieved victory over the church, and at least they think that. And we know if there's just even a small group with one true priest that upholds the one true faith. That's what St. Athanasius did. Even if the true remnant was reduced to a handful of true believers and, say, one true priest that believed in the true Catholic faith, they remain the true church of Jesus Christ on earth. So, and he said back then, St. Athanasius, during the Arian crisis, that if we have the faith, they have the buildings.
Now, we know that the Lodge will welcome anyone who attends any church, synagogue, temple, cathedral, belongs to any religion whatsoever. But we know that Freemasonry is a religion because we've studied it, and we have people like you who are a Freemason at a very high degree and have confirmed it, and their own writing confirms it. Albert Pike has stated it in writing in his book Morals and Dogma, and in others of his writings, I might add. And Manly P. Hall has confirmed that. So if Freemasonry is a religion, yet they accept members, people who go to other churches in the community, and many different religions that have doctrines that don't agree at all, how can they rectify that? I mean, how can you explain this? How can this be?
It just is. And any Mason that holds his religious convictions dear and becomes a member of the Lodge is in direct conflict with his own beliefs and his own faith. The two cannot go together, have never been able to go together, and I don't think they ever will be. And I'd like to ask I'd just like to tell all of my brothers in the lodges out there, how can you possibly believe that Freemasonry is not a religion? You meet in a Masonic temple, you knelt at a Masonic altar with the Holy Bible, or in other countries a different holy book, the Quran or many other texts. You knelt there and swore your blood oaths in the name of a deity, and quiet respect is demanded in any and all lodges all over the world, just like in any temple. You have been living a lie, and if you don't wake up pretty soon, the New World Order will turn around and eat your lunch for you.
Isn't it a fact that they believe they're going to be an integral part of this New World Order, however most of them really will not be?
This is the great joke. This is the punchline to the whole affair. They believe and see themselves as the priest and the priesthood of the New World Order. They think that when all things start falling apart, that they are going to be the ones that rise up phoenix-like out of the ashes, bring the world together, and deliver them into the hands of Lucifer. Like I said, they consider themselves builders, and what they're building is the New World Order, and it's being erected like a prison around us even as we speak. And the capstone, and you ought to take a look at the Great Seal of the United States to get a feel for this. The capstone of the New World Order, of the building that they're creating, is actually Lucifer himself.
And isn't that the symbol of Lucifer, the all-seeing eye above the pyramid, the symbol of light. It actually began as the symbol of the sun, which was the symbol of the light, which was the symbol for Lucifer, and over the years it evolved into an eye. Christians are told that that is the eye of God, but nobody ever bothers to ask which God or who. What's the name of this God? And if a Muslim were to ask in the Middle East, they would say it's the eye of God, and they would think that it was the eye of Allah. And in the Far East, somebody might think it was the eye of Buddha. But this is never explained. In effect, it really began representing the sun and became the eye. The sun has always been the representation of wisdom or the intellect or knowledge, which is all the Luciferian doctrine. It is the symbol for the light, Lucifer, the fallen angel, the Luciferian philosophy.
These are facts. This is just the way it is. I'm holding in my hand this very moment an official Masonic medallion that is handed out to many Masons as a gift, especially at entered apprentices. At the very top and taking up the main position in this medallion is the all-seeing eye. And this eye is, just as Bill Cooper has said, a combination of the eye of quote-unquote God, and I stress that quote-unquote more than any other, and also it is the sun. It is a symbol of sun worship. The eye that I'm seeing, the lashes on the eye on this medallion that I'm holding are actually the rays of the sun coming down to illuminate the fellow Masons. It is more than just a religion, as Albert Pike has professed. It is the oldest known religion. It is a pagan religion of sun worship. It is nature worship, and it is incredibly dangerous to free-loving people everywhere.
Tonight is part 2 of our interview with William Morgan, and many of you are wondering if that's his real name. No, it is not. We protect CAGI members. We never tell anyone how many CAGI members we have, where they're at, what their names are, anything. None of that information is given out, not even to other CAGI members. Now, we use the code name or the pseudonym of William Morgan simply because the name William Morgan is significant in the past of the secret society called Freemasonry. William Morgan was murdered by Freemasons after having revealed, printed in a book, some of the secrets of the lodge, and this was done back in the 1800s. Of course, the Fraternity of Freemason denies that they murdered William Morgan. However, their version differs significantly from the official version and from the proof and the evidence that we have spent many hundreds of man-hours digging up, and one of these nights we're going to do a program just entirely on the murder of William Morgan. Will, welcome back to the Hour of the Time.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really proud and happy to be here and doing what I'm doing.
You know, I don't think a lot of people realize that you're risking your life by doing this. The oaths that you have taken, albeit because they were fraudulent, you thought that you were making an oath to the God of the Bible, and in fact you were making an oath to Lucifer, which nullifies those oaths, but they still, the Brotherhood, the Order, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, could still carry out the threat of those oaths, which is murder. Is that not correct?
Absolutely correct. No matter what I may personally feel about or what common law or the actual law may view about those oaths as taken, the Masons that are involved consider them to be absolutely applicable to any transgression. And they have been enforced, and the bloody punishments that are part of the oaths have happened to Masons before, and they will happen again, I'm sure.
Now, you are what degree? Let's get that out for the people in case we have some new listeners tonight. What degree are you?
I am a 32nd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite of the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States.
And what is the official title of that degree?
The official title is the Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret, and that is not only the title of the degree, it is also the title of the ritual that the degree is conferred to. And just to show you how important that is, after going through the ritual and getting the degree conferred upon me, I could neither remember anything sublime or even remember what the secret was that they told me.
Why is it that you couldn't remember the secrets of the degree?
Well, that's a bit of a long story, and I won't go entirely into it, but it started off, the day I was conferred, began at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they just rushed through it. There was no memory work to do as in the Blue Lodge, where a person has to memorize the ritual and then give it back. You just sit there and received in an audience-like capacity. When it came to swearing the oath, you merely held up your hand and said, "I do." You also did take that oath on kneeling on one knee, as you did in the Blue Lodge.
Now, we talked yesterday after we recorded the last program that aired, I believe Friday, on WRNO, and this will air on Monday on WRNO. It will air at a different date on WWCR. So if you're listening on WWCR, don't let these dates confuse you. But we talked, and I asked you specifically if there was a part of Freemasonry where you raised your arm to the square, and what was your reply?
Yes, there is a part where you raise your arm to the square. The first time I remember doing that action was in the second degree when it was conferred upon me. You raise your right hand as if you were swearing in. Actually, it is exactly the same position as if you're swearing in a court of law. Your left hand is placed flatly upon the Holy Bible or whatever holy text that, depending on the lodge you're in, and your right hand is held at a right angle with the arm extended, and an actual square, like an engineer's square, is held around the elbow of the arm. You're swearing in a square within a square, so to speak, as the ritual says.
Now, if a Freemason were speaking in front of a group of what Masons call the profane, would it be fair to state that if the speaker stated something about when he raised his arm to the square, that this could be a recognition signal to notify other Freemasons in the audience that he was indeed a Freemason?
Knowing what I know, I could hardly see it as anything else. There's no square involved in any other oath swearing ceremony that I've ever heard of, ever, not in a court of law. Only a square is involved in Masonry. It's one of the primary tools that are symbolically referred to in all the ritual of the Blue Lodge.
Now, many of you have heard this statement made by someone that you all listen to, and I want you to make that connection for yourselves. If you can't make that connection for yourself, then there's no need to telling you any more about it anyway. Let's get into some of the ceremonies. How does this start? It begins in the Blue Lodge with the first degree of entered apprentice, and it goes up, and you've actually traversed 32 degrees of initiation. Are there side roads off of this?
Yeah, well, it's a bit difficult. The Blue Lodge is where everything begins, and the Blue Lodge where Mason is initiated at is called the Mother Lodge from that time after, in specific reference to him personally. Now, once you get past the third degree, become a Master Mason in your Blue Lodge, you are able to hold an officer, or hold a chair as an officer inside the lodge, and you can spend up to 10 years going through the chairs and becoming an officer. But after that, you can either go to the Scottish Rite or the Yorkish Rite. There's a fork in the road of Masonry, and the Scottish Rite is by far the most popular and undoubtedly the most powerful.
Now, the York Rite has 7 degrees. Is that true?
True. The highest of which being the Knight Templar degree. For all those people out there who think that the Knights Templar are in no way associated with Masons, you're dead wrong, and you haven't done your homework.
In fact, the Knights Templar, when they first began as an organization on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, were not an order commissioned or ordained or approved or even recognized by any church, much less the Catholic Church, but were, in fact, an order of the mysteries. They began with 7 degrees, and the 7th degree was the highest degree. And later, as they added degrees, when the Knights Templar were persecuted and in fact, many of them were put to death. Others were driven into hiding in other countries. In some of the countries, they just changed their names and continued the order. They eventually reached a number of degrees, which was 33. And I took that right out of a very old textbook on the secret societies, which we'll talk about some in a later program, and we'll get into that. But what is the significance that you've been told of the system of degrees? Why do you have to go through this?
It's considered a road. It's considered a road to quote-unquote illumination. I really believe that it's more of a system of control and self-government. Lodges are pretty unique in America in that they are self-sustaining and self-governing, even with their own bit of enforcement. All lodges have been granted a charter from a Grand Lodge, and every Grand Lodge in this country has been granted a charter from the United States government to operate on its own and enforce its own laws and constitutions. If a police officer or any law enforcement officer walks into a lodge while in session, he not only does he not have arrest power, but that lodge immediately closes.
Now, this is something the American people don't know about. Now, if these are lodges, they're in states, they have nothing to do with the federal government. How could they receive a charter from the federal government saying that they're under their own laws? And how could it be the law enforcement officer would not have the authority to arrest or any of his other authorized duties in a Freemasonic lodge?
It beats the hell out of me, Bill. It's really a bit of a contradiction in terms. You have a government that has actually gone out and given government-type status to a completely and secret and I think subversive organization right under its own nose. The similar thing can be seen in the Mormon Church and in other secret societies that are not nearly so famous as Freemasonry itself. The government has, by granting this charter, I believe, undermined its own stability as a functioning organization.
Well, tell us about this charter again. Tell us again what you said before. I don't want anyone to miss this because it's very important. It shows how a secret government can be formed. It tells that these members of these secret societies literally have diplomatic immunity and can get away with whatever they want to get away with. Not only that, but they have their members sitting in the most powerful posts both within society on local levels and local cities, local counties and state governments, in the higher echelons of the military, and they permeate all the positions of control within the bureaucracy of the federal government. So tell us what this charter is again.
Okay, it's a document put out by the federal government, and it can be any government in the world. To my knowledge, every government in the world that has lodges in it has granted a sovereign charter to the Grand Lodges under its jurisdiction. I really haven't done enough research to speak at length on the nature of the charter or what it exactly implies universally for Freemasonry, but I do know for a fact that a law enforcement officer, and we have many law enforcement officers in our lodge, from state troopers to policemen to military policemen, they're not cops when they walk into the lodge. They leave their power, their badges, and their guns outside, and they do so willingly. That's a pretty good example, but I think the best example comes from the Knights of Malta. And here's another one for you guys out there that haven't done your homework. I'm reading from the glossary of a book entitled Freemasonry, A Celebration of the Craft, which is put out by the craft itself, and it defines Knights of Malta as a Christian Masonic degree based upon the medieval Knights Hospitallers and emphasizing the Christian virtues. Well, you can leave the Christian out of it if you like, but what's interesting about the Knights of Malta is they actually do have diplomatic immunity. As an organization, they can bring goods in and out of this country without going through customs, and they cannot be arrested or they cannot be detained or charged with any crime by any law enforcement officer in the country. They're above sovereign. As far as I know, they're above most government officials that are in the land.
That's a fact, and they actually carry diplomatic passports. I know several people personally who are members of the Knights, the Sovereign Order of the Military Knights of Malta, and they carry diplomatic passports and they began as citizens of the United States of America. Now, what happens when a police officer, and most police officers we have discovered, or at least the ones who make law enforcement a career, and most, if not all, judges sitting upon benches in this country are Freemasons. What happens when you're speeding down a highway and you're stopped by a law enforcement officer? What happens when he sees the Masonic emblem on your windshield?
Usually what you have is a direct turnaround in attitude. I myself am a young man. I get hassled by cops a little bit. It seems like they always have cop an attitude when they pull me over, but when they see the Masonic square and compasses on my car, and most importantly when I flip out my dues paying card, a card that all dues paying Masons carry, The police officer, well, let me just put it this way. I've never once got a speeding ticket or a traffic ticket or have even been harassed in any way when they have known that I am a Mason. It just has not happened. That is my personal experience.
So the justice system in this country doesn't really work, and Freemasons are, in effect, exempt from the laws that the rest of us are supposed to follow. Is that true?
Yeah, that could be probably construed as accurate, Bill. Although I disagree, it does work. It just doesn't work the way most people think it works. It works for them and with them and around them, and it works on the rest of you.
That's right. Now, what happens when a Freemason goes into court against someone who's not a Freemason and the judge is a Freemason?
Okay, well, you have a very subtle interaction that goes on. All Masons are taught secret signs and secret words and secret phrases and this is some of the most, this is what they don't want revealed more than anything else. You can stand in a particular position, you can hold your arms in a particular position, you can speak certain words, the widow's son, traveling man, keywords and phrases that will let this judge know that you are a Mason. And you can almost guarantee that he is a Mason too, or else he wouldn't have been able to lock down a lasting career in the judiciary.
That's correct. And that would explain why some people just don't seem to ever get prosecuted for anything, and others who may commit the same crime or a much lesser offense seem to be inordinately punished, given such a heavy burden of punishment, while others who have done the same thing receive either nothing or a pat on the wrist.
Well, brothers look out for each other. It's just the way the system works. It's a buddy system. It's a you scratch my back, I scratch yours. As a matter of fact, in the oath that a Mason swears, he swears that he will uphold and defend a fellow Mason in any problem that he may encounter, treason and murder alone excepted, but they left at their election, which means that even if a fellow Mason is a traitor to his country, we know that could never happen. If he's a traitor to his country, his brother Mason has his own choice whether he wants to turn him in or not. He is not obligated to do so, and obeying the laws of Masonry above the laws of the land, he's probably not even going to consider it.
So, in other words, one way of infiltrating and controlling our society and our government, both on a local, state, and national level, and the military, is for one of the Freemasons to get into a position where he can then appoint or hire Freemasons below him. When people come to apply for that job, who gets the job?
That's self-explanatory. The Mason will get the job every time. Another part of the oath is that you will look out for the interest of your brother Masons in whatever capacity they may be in. In fact, it could probably be construed that not giving the job to a brother Mason would bring serious repercussions if discovered inside the lodge, and may even be a violation of the oath.
There you go, folks. All of you who've been telling me that I'm full of crap and that I don't know what I'm talking about and that they haven't infiltrated and appointed their members below them and literally taken over all levels of society, both local, state, and federal, and the military, you just heard it from the lips of a 32nd degree Freemason. That is exactly how they do it, and that is exactly what has been done. You have to understand that since this country was conceived and brought into reality, Freemasons have controlled it. And their goal always, from the beginning, was to bring about a one-world totalitarian socialist government. Our forefathers knew full well the foibles of human nature. And this country was described in their own words as the great experiment. And the experiment, folks, was to find out if we truly could be responsible, could rule ourselves, would not give in to the foibles of human nature and give our country and our individual freedoms and rights away. But they knew when they did it that that's exactly what would happen, because they were probably the best at understanding human nature of anyone that I've ever read. And I've read all of their writings and letters and works and the Federalist Papers and everything else that they've done. And they knew full well that this people would give away what they built. And they knew that if we could be responsible, if we would not be apathetic, if we would not cave in to the desires of socialism, to the weaknesses of human nature, that this would have been the New World Order. We have failed, not them. They gave us every chance, folks. So don't get mad at our forefathers. Would you concur with what I've just said?
I couldn't argue with you, and I wouldn't want to start an argument with you, Bill. I have heard higher-level Masons refer to the United States in their writings and in person as a Mason nation. It was erected by them. If you look at the signers of the Declaration of Independence, if you look at the forefathers, you'll see who was involved at the very beginning of this thing. And I'm not saying that all our forefathers are bad or evil. They certainly are not. They created the greatest nation ever known to man. But some of them were Illuminati, and there's no denying that. The course that they set us upon was in the end self-defeating for us.
Okay, folks, don't go away. We've got to take our break. I'll be right back with William Morgan after this very short pause. Hello, folks. This is William Cooper once again for Swiss America Trading. You know, as a Creedence Clearwater Revival, before you accuse me, you better look at yourself. Boy, does that apply on this program. You Freemasons out there, all members of all the secret societies that are subverting the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, I call them cockroaches. I don't know what the rest of you call them, but that's what they are. They claim to be looking for the light, but every time you'll turn the light on them, they scurry under the sink, run for cover. It occurs to me that I need to tell you folks out there something. This young man who's on this program is a member of the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence, and there are literally hundreds of brave men and women all over this country and the world who are gathering information, bringing the truth out into the open. We are all working for freedom. It is the largest and most successful civilian intelligence gathering organization in the world. And our goal is freedom, to preserve freedom in this country, the United States, preserve the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because it's the last bastion, the last wall between us and freedom, and try to institute freedom in all of the rest of the world. That's our only purpose, our only purpose. We are in support of freedom for all peoples everywhere. This young man on this show has risked his life to tell you what he's telling you tonight, and if his identity were ever to be discovered, he could be murdered by the secret societies that he is revealing. He is one of my heroes. Most of the people in Kaji who are helping us to do this, most of them working in intense secret, in dangerous situations. We have people who have infiltrated satanic organizations and are feeding us the information on their rituals and who they are and what they're all about. And the instant that they were to be discovered, they would be murdered. You don't seem to understand that this organization that I built, the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence, is vital to the freedom of the United States of America and to the world. The governmental intelligence agencies are in the control of the secret societies and are not working on our behalf and never have been, folks. I hope you understand that. Let's go back to Will. You've got something in front of you, and I believe it's a list of Freemasons throughout history that people would recognize their names, and if they don't readily recognize their names, they could go to any reference book and find these names and their biographies in any library. Would you like to tell our listening audience who some of these people are?
Yeah, there's some really names that you'll really recognize here. But before I do, let me thank you, Bill Cooper, for reminding me that my brothers might murder me just for telling the truth. Here's one: Colonel Buzz Aldrin, Simon Bolivar, Omar Bradley, Edmund Burke, Richard Byrd, Kit Carson, Walter Chrysler, Buffalo Bill Cody, Ty Cobb, Winston Churchill. The list just goes on, and Gordon Cooper, Edwin Drake, Jack Dempsey, Cecil B. DeMille.
You know, you mentioned Winston Churchill, and one of the things that the listening audience does not know is that not only Winston Churchill was a Freemason, but so was Harry Truman, and so was Mr. Stalin. So when they had their meeting at Yalta, here was three 33rd degree Freemasons deciding the fate of the world. And for all of you who couldn't figure out why they made the decisions that they made at Yalta that so screwed up the world, now you know. Please continue, Will.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, they should have just held that Yalta meeting in a lodge and been a bit open about it. Okay, here's some more for us. Duke Ellington, Henry Ford, Benjamin Franklin, Clark Gable, John Glenn, Gillette, Richard Gatling, inventor of the Gatling gun, Samuel Gompers, Prince Hall, Manly Palmer. Joseph Guillotine, who invented the guillotine. We'll be seeing more of that later. Oh boy, there's just simply not time. Edgar Hoover, Sam Houston. Oh.
For those of you who did not understand his reference to, we'll be seeing more of the guillotine later, when the New World Order actually succeeds in taking control of the world, executions will be public, and the secret societies believe in blood atonement. In other words, you can only atone for your wrongdoing by your works or by the shedding of your blood atonement. So in these public executions, there will have to be the maximum amount of blood. Public executions will be held as a object lesson to the rest of the population, not to oppose the New World Order, for it is the most terrible, terrifying experience to see someone literally beheaded, is intended to cow everyone else, and is, in fact, will be, in fact, a ritualistic sacrifice to the god of the secret societies, who we all know now is Lucifer, also known as Satan.
Yeah, you know, Bill, it just dawned on me just what a fun guy you really are. Here's a short list of presidents of the United States who have been Masons: George Washington, James Monroe, Andrew Jackson, James Polk, James Buchanan, Andrew Johnson, James Garfield, William McKinley, Teddy Roosevelt, William Taft, Warren Harding, Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Lyndon Johnson, Gerald Ford, and I also know for a fact that George Bush is a Mason and that Ronald Reagan was made a Mason on sight. Like I said, the list just goes on, and these are not even a partial fraction of a % of the famous Masons that have existed throughout history.
Well, John Wayne was a Freemason, wasn't he?
The Duke was a Freemason, absolutely true.
And, we're not in any way belittling the accomplishments or the contributions to society of any of these people. We just wanted to let you know that this covers all areas of society, all levels of society, all occupations, and that many famous people whom you all recognize have been or are members of these secret societies. Now, many of them are taken in as window dressing. In other words, they don't really know what they're a part of. They're told that it's a fraternal organization existing for the good of the community. And of course, in any organization, if you can get famous celebrities to belong, that's a feather in your cap, because the public, for some reason, thinks that if a celebrity belongs to something, then there can be nothing wrong with it. What sheeple, what total crap. But that's the way people believe.
That's absolutely true. Most of the celebrity names that I mentioned in this list are there just simply as window dressings to give a good appearance to the craft, but some of them absolutely are not. And I'm reading from this book published by Masonic Publishing Company, and it states that Joseph Smith, founder of the Mormon Church, was absolutely and undeniably a Freemason.
Did you find Giuseppe Mazzini in there?
Yeah, I sure did. I should have done my homework. It's Giuseppe Mazzini, 1805 to 1872, Italian patriot.
He was also one of the best friends and correspondents of Albert Pike, who was the head of World Freemasonry for a while and the head of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in this country. He established, with others, the Ku Klux Klan, the branch of Freemasonry known as B'nai B'rith, which the ADL operates out of. And the ADL, folks, for those of you who don't know it, are under intense investigation now for spying upon agencies and departments of the United States government and police departments, and actually stealing records and passing them on to the secret societies and to the State of Israel. So you'd really better wake up out there, and don't give me this stuff that it's the Jews, that it's the blacks, that it's this, it's that. It's not. It's not. Ordinary people like you and me, I don't care what their skin color is, I don't care what their religion is, are just like you and me, and all they want to do is live in peace. There are elements and organizations and people belonging to all the different ethnic groups, all of the different religions, all of the different organizations, corporations, governments, anything that you want to name belong to these secret societies. The Jews have been used as scapegoats throughout history. The Freemasonic organization and the secret societies in general are racist. They believe that the races, the white Caucasian races in Europe, Germany, England, are the superior race, are the real Israelites. They are the ones who have orchestrated and brought about the state of Israel. They are the ones who maintain the force of Zionism active in the world. The Mormon Church is a great part of this. If you just get down and dirty on this, you'll find that what I'm telling you is absolutely true. And one of their main weapons that they use against us is to divide us against each other, so that while we're running around stabbing each other in the back, they are putting the chains on all of us. And when are you people going to realize that and understand it? All during the Cold War, there were no Russian families sitting around their table plotting on how to do away with Americans, and there weren't any American families doing that either. All of us were concerned with our children, with putting food on the table, with educating our children, with trying to build some kind of a good life. That's all that ordinary people care about. It doesn't matter what race they belong to, what religion they belong to.
Bravo, Bill. If there's a lesson that the listeners can go home with, it is that stop this racist divisionism, come together and see the enemy for who it is. Like I said on the last program, you cannot enjoy the protection of the secret societies forever. With a little bit of homework, you can find out who financed Hitler in World War II. And anybody that knows history knows that as soon as Hitler got to where he was at in power, who did he initiate a pogrom against? It wasn't just Jews. He got rid of all the Freemasons who were the window dressing in Germany and in Austria, who put him where he was at and protected his interests. He zapped them. He nuked them. They were gone. They joined the Jews and the Gypsies in the concentration camps, and they were never heard from again. And to this day, many German Freemasons wear a small flower on their lapel in remembrance of that tragic event. You cannot enjoy that protection forever. You are doomed to fail if you depend on these people for your life.
That's correct. And remember, the primary method that they use is this. Conflict creates change. They create the conflict that they know will bring about the solution that they want. They get it to appear as if the people are screaming for the solution, and then they give it to them. Something that the people would never have accepted in the first place. But remember, conflict creates change. They believe in the Hegelian principle of conflict resolution. You have a thesis, an antithesis, and the clash of these two creates the solution to the problem which they've been aiming for all along. Now you also have to understand that controlled conflict creates desired results or change. So the method of bringing about controlled conflict is to have your people leading both sides of the conflict. So when you talk about Republican or Democrat, forget it. At the highest level, they're both the same. When you talk about populist versus communist or whatever it is, forget it. At the highest level, they all belong to the same organization. When you look around in the Patriot movement, remember, most of the leaders in the Patriot movement are on the same side and belong to the same organizations as the leaders of the secret societies that are trying to destroy this country. The conflict between the two, which they are trying to create now, will ensure the destruction of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and then they will step forward with the answer. 1,000 years of peace under the United Nations. But you're going to have to make concessions to get it. You're going to have to give up your freedoms, your individual rights. But they will protect you. If you buy that, folks, you are indeed a fool.
Surveillance state. worldview is going to be challenged by many people who are coming to this information for the first time. Every mystery tradition has its inversion. Light Freemasonry and dark Freemasonry. Light Kabbalah and dark Kabbalah. Light Rosicrucianism and dark Rosicrucianism. These traditions are rich in symbolism and they're rich in knowledge of self. They can help people really to deeply understand morality and natural law. The number 9 is Satan's number. Stupidity, pretentiousness, solipsism, self-deceit, herd conformity, lack of perspective, forgetfulness of past orthodoxies, counterproductive pride, and lack of aesthetics. Look at some occult holidays. There's 8 of them. The occult year is based around the zodiac and the path of the sun around the houses of the zodiac during the course of a solar year. The year is quartered by the solstices and the equinoxes, which are 4 of the occult holidays. These are known as the minor Sabbats. The spring equinox, which is called Ostara, the autumn equinox, which is called Mabon, the winter solstice, which is called Yule, and the summer solstice, which is simply referred to as midsummer. At the midpoints of these lines that form this cross, quarter the year into seasons. The midpoints are considered the higher holidays. The midpoint of spring is the biggest one. Spring is the season of the occult because it's the time of the year when the sun renews and gives rebirth to the world by coming out of the tomb of the southern hemisphere. In general occultism, this day is mostly known as Beltane. The high holiday of communism is May 1. May Day, the oldest sun god's name from the Sumerian and Babylonian tradition was Bel or Bil. Here is the god Bel in the Phoenicia-Canaan tradition with another solar deity with rays around his head. He was known in the Babylonian tradition and Akkadian tradition as Baal. He was depicted as the bull, the golden bull of Sumeria. The reason he was depicted as the bull, because the sun 6,000 years ago during the Sumerian civilization was in Taurus. Now, we talked about May 1st, the midpoint of Taurus, the bull, being the high point of the occult holiday. And it's called Beltane. The civilization that came out of that time period of the world was Babylon. The word Bil is right in the middle of the word, Babylon. The sun god. What does Ba mean in the ancient languages? It means spirit. On means light. So, the spirit of the light of Bil, or the light of the spirit of Bil, the solar deity. Well, symbols of Satanism. The most famous is the inverted 5-pointed star, also known as the pentagram. It is known as the Baphomet. It represents the powers of darkness combined with the generative fertility of the goat. In its pure form, the pentagram is shown encompassing the figure of a man in the 5 points of the star. 3 points up, 2 pointing down, symbolizing man's spiritual nature. The 4 points being earth, air, water, and fire, and the top point, or the head, being spirit. Another well-known symbol of Satanism is the inverted crucifix. This is very popular in satanic music, especially death metal and black metal. The hypercube is one of the most occulted symbolism within all dark occultism, yet it is found prevalently throughout our society in the form of octagonal symbolism. 2-dimensional projection of the hypercube, which is a representation of a 4-dimensional object, is an octagon. They also use the octagon in the form of 2 squares overlapping each other at 90-degree angles. In Satanism, the trapezoid represents the imbalanced, ego-driven consciousness, an identification purely with the physical self. It is considered a perversion of the, quote, divine shape, the circle, since its angles total 360 degrees. In its satanic connotation, the trapezoid is considered a, quote, soul trap, symbolizing going around in circles of base consciousness. In this interview, you will see Nicholas Schreck. So you are going to hear him talk about his music promoting the satanic ideology in this interview. I want you to pay very specific attention to some of the things he says.
What we're waging is a cultural war right now on every front, in music, in literature, utilizing the media against itself. What we're trying to do is bring back a resurgence of the Western European tradition that has been all but lost in the world. And we're using music because that's the instrument that young people respond to right now. We're doing propaganda directly to awaken the wolf. There's a spirit to the Western people that is unique in the world, and it is a Gothic spirit, and I think that's the purest form of Western culture, and I think we keep that flame alive in Radio Werewolf.
Your music is getting more into the political...
Well, our music, well, I wouldn't say political, because we transcend politics. Politics is merely the puppet show of human beings, and we transcend that, but we are interested in the control of human beings for our own purposes. This is the 13th rune in the ancient runic alphabet of the Norse people, and it represents Yggdrasil, the tree of life. And this is the meeting point between life and death. And it's the tree that symbolically supports the universe. And the wolf's angle symbol we use as the symbol for the Abraxas Foundation. It's a fascist occult think tank. And what we're doing is coming up with new strategies and techniques to bring this cultural renaissance into the future. And the wolf represents the beast in man. That's what we seek to unleash in humanity, because it's been repressed and tamed by Judeo-Christian values, and that above all is what we seek to eradicate. We can hearken back to Norse mythology, where Fenris, the ancient wolf god, was unleashed upon the world, and the Götterdämmerung occurred, the Ragnarok, the end of the world. And symbolically, that is what we are undergoing right now in history, an end of the old order, an end of the old world, and the beginning of a new order.
If you think in a public interview they're talking that open, imagine some of the things I heard behind closed doors. Every mystery tradition has its inversion. These traditions are rich in symbolism, and they're rich in knowledge of self. They can help people really to deeply understand morality and natural law. I highly encourage people to look into all of these traditions. You don't need to go into any organizations or groups. You know, you have the truth device in the palm of your hand if you use it the right way. You know, you don't need to go and take oaths to any organization or group to acquire knowledge of this order.